welcome into Weekly Champions here on Wrestling Spotlight TV. Yeah, we're coming off of what's easily the most eventful week of the pro wrestling year, and we had a chance to be out there. There is a picture from inside Allegiant Stadium as John Cena is becoming the self-proclaimed last real champion as he wins the undisputed WWE title, becoming the champion for the 17th time. And now in WWE world, it's an all-time record. Of course, there's plenty of people that say Ric Flair won 21 titles, but we'll worry about that later. Gerald Bentley here, fresh back from Las Vegas and WrestleMania week, joined by Sonny, the Man Eagle Cain, and Chase from Fountain City Pro Wrestling, the I-70 hot tag. And guys, just to kick it off, what was your initial reaction to WrestleMania? Sonny, what's your initial takeaway from the week of wrestling?
I thought it was fantastic. The crowds have really shown back up and supported the WWE. They were never really away. Even during COVID, they appeared on flat screens in the stands and so forth. And I just think it's phenomenal the way Triple H has got the ball really turning on the bigger productions of the business. And he elaborated on that on his, what I'd like to say, politely marathon speech that I thoroughly enjoyed Friday night. He said how much work went into putting on a big time show, and they worked hours and months to get the shows up and running that smoothly. So I was thoroughly impressed all weekend.
Yeah, and Chase, your takeaway from the week of wrestling?
I mean, the week of wrestling, it just goes to show it's a great time to be a wrestling fan, great time to be in the business. Just all, you think about a whole week's worth of stuff, all the way down to the independent level, all the way up to the main stages of WrestleMania. I thought it was great. I feel like this year it felt bigger than last year and the year before. And that's what's crazy is since Triple H has taken over, it seems like each year it's just a bigger spectacle. So,
yeah, and having been at WrestleMania 40 in Philadelphia and then this year in Las Vegas, I would agree. The overall, the aura, the event just seemed bigger in Las Vegas because everything is right there. If you haven't, most people have visited Las Vegas, but if you haven't, if you're not familiar with it, the entirety of the strip from the Fremont Street experience to the end of the strip, which is really probably about the Stratosphere or the Fontainebleau, it's less than 4 miles, one straight shot, and every event was right there. So there were almost 100 professional wrestling shows that happened between Wednesday prior to Mania and Tuesday after. Wow. Your only limit on how much pro wrestling you could see was yourself. And most of the tickets were extremely affordable. Even when you consider the difference between our WrestleMania tickets are expensive, yes, but compared to other signature tentpole events, they're not. If you compare it to a major league playoff game, to an NFL playoff game, to an NBA final, to the World Cup that's coming here, they're a fraction. It's not as expensive as being reported. And other events were really, quite reasonable. I went to GCW Bloodsport, which I thought was a tremendous event. It was at the Palms Casino in the Palms Theater. And I got to see wrestlers from the WWE, from the NWA, from New Japan, from GCW, all competing on the same card. It was great, highlighted by Natty Neidhart making her return to the independent scene and, having an MMA style match and then getting into a confrontation with the NWA Women's Champion, Kenzie Page, which is setting up the Crockett Cup. So some great work being done there. Then you had Progress Wrestling from the UK had a show immediately after. Literally every day from 10 a.m. to midnight, there was wrestling going on, and it was all right on top of each other. So that's a good point, Chase. It did seem bigger, and I think it's because it was literally everywhere. Every Jumbotron, when you walked out on the strip, had either Cody or John Cena or Roman Reigns on it. The Caesar statue in front of Caesar's Palace had a giant WWE title belt. The WWE World was right on the strip at the convention center. So yeah, it was definitely an elevated event. Next year in New Orleans, it's going to be hard to top. The thing New Orleans has going for it is their convention structure. That's why they're on so many Super Bowl and Final Four rotations. Everything's right on top of itself. So you don't need to take a cab. You don't need to worry about transport. Everything's in walking distance. So it's definitely going to be a high bar to surpass. And just talking about the matches, which matches really jumped out at you? Which match do you think kind of told the story of the weekend if you had to pick one or two? Chase, which ones jumped out to you?
I think it's really, really hard to argue. It has to be the main event of night one, the triple threat match. We haven't stopped talking about the ending to that match. We haven't stopped talking about what transpired Monday night. That's all the wrestling world has been buzzing about since Saturday, is that night one main event. It was great. It was a great story. I mean, there was better matches. I think the women's triple threat match, I think I saw people online calling it the best triple threat match they've ever seen. And it's hard to argue. It was a really great match. So I mean, there was better matches. Yeah, there was better matches than night one's main event, but I mean, as far as like the buzz and the story around it, there's not much more.
Yeah, it was a huge surprise. Sonny, which match kind of jumped out at you? One or two?
There were a couple. I liked the Jay Uso match and Gunther and or Gunther, and I liked the women's triple threat match. I'm an Io Sky fan, and I just thought she did phenomenal work in that match. To be her size and to be paired up against women who are so much bigger and taller than her, she just is so vibrant about who she is and has a real good sense of what she's capable of doing. And I look forward to meeting her one day and telling her that. But she just brings excitement into the room when she walks in the room, and she stays that way seemingly throughout her entire match involvement. I didn't see her wither away once during the whole thing. I mean, she took a pause when things turned away from her, but aside from that, she came head on all during the match. And Stone Cold Steve Austin told her backstage that it was the best women's triple threat match that he had ever seen. And I thought, my goodness, what a compliment. So I had the privilege of meeting Steve Austin's son.
Now, I haven't had a chance to rewatch it, but the reaction in Allegiant Stadium to that match was very much, everybody was behind Rhea initially. And then as the match was going on, they were turning on Bianca. Bianca was getting some boos, but slowly it moved from a heavy pro Rhea to an appreciation of Io. And then you saw that culminate last night on Monday Night Raw as they were cheering Io, and Io was really leaning into it as, this pure babyface, excited champion, which I think is a good spot for her, as opposed to being, kind of the heel faction they were going at with Damage Control. They still introduced her as representing Damage Control, but I think she's moved on past that now. She is the genius of the Sky, and, she deserves that championship, and definitely was one of the highlights of the week. And then Chase, I agree with you that main event match on night one, that was the peak, I think, of the fan reaction. When Living Color played CM Punk in, the people singing Seth Rollins' song, that was as loud as I felt the stadium got over the course of the weekend. Even for Cody's intro, it wasn't as pumped because I think people expected that John Cena win and honestly came away a little underwhelmed with the way the match ended up going because it got a little clunky. I think I agree with the title change because it does set up a lot of potential stories down the road. And, for people who are saying, well, why'd you take the title off? Well, it's really hard to win 17 times if you never lose it. I think the era of the never-ending champion is ending with our friend Athena in Ring of Honor because Roman did it in the WWE. I don't see that happening again. Chase, what was your reaction to the John Cena win at WrestleMania? No, gotta unmute yourself. There you go.
Yeah. That wasn't who I was rooting for. I was rooting for Cody. But I get it. It makes sense. Now it's going to be heel Cena and we're going to be waiting for him to lose it. I was rooting for Cody, but still was pretty excited to see that one last title win.
Yeah. I mean, he is a huge movie entertainment star. I mean, he just is. And he's partnered up with The Rock. So you have two of the biggest stars in entertainment that are working together now in the WWE. So it's a unique situation they're in. And, honestly, not that dissimilar to what AEW did with Bryan Danielson. I just wanted to give you a look at the stadium. This is shot that I took of the introduction of John Cena. I thought it was a pretty good way to cement his heel status. You gotta like just the plain black and white, no Tron video, nothing, just walking up. And just kind of the stunned silence of the fans because he's coming out because you're expecting all sorts of Jumbotron and they have these video cards dropping down during the main event. Instead you got this. I thought that was just classic heel wrestling and actually using the technology to even further the I don't care about you guys because this is what you're getting. What'd you guys think of that intro with just the plain white script of his name? Chase, did you?
I liked it. I think it was deserving for him to be in that light after all the years he's been there. And, he chose to be the heel and he seems to be playing the heel really well at this point. I personally wasn't too sure how it was going to go over since he had been the babyface for so many years. But I've said it before, anyone that can play both character roles and be that convincing at what they do, it's a really well-paid athlete that does that, and not everybody can do it. I played both roles some in my career, and you just it's a mindset. You go in there and you say, okay, I'm now the bad guy. And the night I won the title belt in Raleigh, North Carolina, the Triangle Wrestling Federation heavyweight title, I was the heel. And it went over, but it's different. I'm interested to see now how long he'll remain the heel, or if he'll flip back to the side of the good. So I guess we'll see.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was picking. I thought he would realize the error in his ways, but he seems pretty committed to it. And Chase, I think we may see him run this out to SummerSlam. That would seem like probably the earliest opportunity for him to drop it. He's going to face Randy Orton in Randy Orton's hometown of St. Louis for Backlash coming up next month. But I can't imagine they'd switch the title that fast, even though Randy Orton, obviously a credible champion.
Yeah. I mean, I'm hoping him and Orton run for a while. Maybe it's a different opponent come SummerSlam. I'm glad you brought up SummerSlam. I mean, we could see the title change hands because this year is the first year of the two nights, SummerSlam. And it's going to be really, really interesting to see what Triple H and WWE do as far as trying to, are they going to try and build that up as like a second tier WrestleMania event, with it being two nights? Going to be crazy to see on the outside wrestling scene. Is GCW going to do some stuff? Are we going to have another like Wrestle Week for SummerSlam every year? But yeah, no, I could see Cena keeping it at least until SummerSlam.
Yeah, I think so.
Depending on who they put him up against.
Well, hey, just talking about the wrestling week, I think we're seeing the opportunity for multiple wrestling weeks coming up. AEW seems to be committed to building All In up to being a full week program with Dynamite, with Collision, with Ring of Honor, and the main event. And you got to think at some point AEW is going to take a look at doing these 2-day splits for their big main events too, their big pay-per-view kind of kickoffs. Maybe not every time, but 3-4 times a year.
They got enough people to do it. Why not?
To be said for 7 matches.
Yeah, that'd be nicer than 7 matches. Yeah,
I'm looking
7
forward
matches
to it.
A stretch.
It's going to be a great show coming up at Globe Life Stadium in Arlington, and planning to attend it starting at 3:30, so they can get their matches in and you can be out of there by 8:00. So that's a good combination, but it's just going to be kind of a feeling out process. But I think there is the market there to do big event weeks and have the independent companies come in and support the majors if it's AEW or WWE. And New York City is a massive wrestling hotbed, so they could absolutely have a GCW series of events in New York City. I think it's coming, and it seems like WWE is we're going to have the 4 tentpole events. Those are going to be in America, or at least in North America. And then we're going to have those international events too. The exception being supposedly WrestleMania 2027 is looking like it's going to London. And having been at All In at Wembley Stadium, the WWE going to Wembley or Tottenham Hotspur Stadium would be absolutely incredible, because that city was all in on AEW, and they're WWE fans as well, so it would pack them in. It's honestly not that bad of a flight. Yeah. So, I think we're going to see more of that coming. Now, one other international story that did culminate during WWE WrestleMania week, I was walking into Allegiant Stadium on Saturday and turned to my wife and said, "Hey, that's Vikingo. He shouldn't be here." And a couple minutes later, Vikingo's on the pre-show stage, and they're announcing that WWE has purchased AAA, the biggest promotion of Lucha Libre in Mexico, now part of the WWE banner. So they aren't just doing the old Vince McMahon style, of which, Sonny, I know you're very familiar with, the dark side of WWE expansion, buying the territory to shut it down. They're buying AAA to run it and basically give AAA jet fuel to expose that programming to a bigger audience, because right now in America, AAA is 1 hour a week on Access TV following Impact TNA Wrestling, which just doesn't get a whole lot of viewers. Not that the wrestling's bad, it's just the broadcast platforms not distributed widely. Where do you guys see AAA wrestling falling into the WWE universe? Because it is a big deal. They have some tremendous competitors, and there's so many natural ties to the WWE roster now with Penta, Alzira Miro, Rey Fenix, Andrade, the Mysterios. And I think it's just a great move. Sonny, excited about Lucha Libre becoming a bigger factor in WWE TV?
Very. I support the Mexican athletes. I hope that's not an insult to them, but I'm interested in their athleticism type matches, and that word was used a lot during WrestleMania. I heard throughout the weekend, and that's a word that you and I coined here on Wrestling Spotlight. Yeah. And
like Kingo definitely represents that. If you haven't seen him wrestle a match, go watch his match against Kenny Omega or his matches against TJP from TNA Impact Wrestling. Incredible competitor. And he got to make a little run in at the end of Rey Fenix's matchup in WrestleMania.
Mm-hmm. But I am excited about the chance to see more Spanish talent come to WWE. I think it's great that WWE is becoming an intersection instead of a one-road affair. By bringing in these other leagues into the mix, it seems to broaden the storytelling process. You get to see more talent. And the Spanish have always been top athletes. Even back in my day, watching Rey Mysterio when he first started to now, gosh, I followed his career forever. And to see more Mexican athletes come on board is just really fantastic. I think Penta's going to be a big star. I think Rey Fenix is going to be another big star. Dominic Mysterio is on his way to being the star. And it just brings the realism of competition back into play versus using the same people over and over again. I think it's good. It's good for the company. I think it's good business.
Yeah, and Chase, I mean, they're building that catalog of inventory, basically, of programming, and AAA is a huge move because they're buying a company that has history that goes as deep as WWE with great talent, and you got to think it's just around the corner. We're going to see AAA on Netflix or on Peacock, and you'll have an English announce table for AAA where the wrestlers can get thrown through the English announce table instead of the Spanish announce table. And the match where Vikingo got involved coming in at the end to help Rey Fenix up after his match against, and I watched Lucha Libre. I must have just missed the history of the greatest luchador ever, because I don't remember ever seeing El Grande Americano before the last month or so. But wow, could you have a bigger heel to go into AAA? We can't definitively prove it's Chad Gable, but Chad Gable better have some personal security when he goes to Mexico City to have a match in AAA as El Grande Americano, because he will be absolutely hated. As a promoter, putting the promoter hat on, what do you think of the move of adding AAA to the WWE universe?
Were you asking me?
Yeah. As a promoter, how do you feel?
I apologize, Gerald. No, I mean, I think it's great, and from that perspective, you already see so many talent, from that area, from that have gone through AAA coming up, like you mentioned. I know Stephanie Vakir is kind of kind of not really the perfect example, but with her history down there. But yes, still and it's very good to have that connection and have that reach. The other main thing that I was thinking about is, one of the things that they had talked about with them possibly purchasing ROH a few years ago is the content, the video library, all the stuff that, they can go back and show people of guys like Andrade or, any of the other Rey Mysterio, of course, Conan, any of those guys that have come up through AAA or gone through AAA, they have the content now to add to Netflix or Peacock. Not just future events with, English commentary, but also the past ones as well.
Well, and it's another place too to let American wrestlers go and get a showcase, because it's not only Lucha Libre wrestlers who are champions there. Nick Nemeth was just the AAA mega champion. The Last Outlaw, Jeff Jarrett, just had a match towards the tag title. So you can get another place to let your wrestlers who maybe aren't getting the time on TV go and get a little in ring time. Maybe somebody like a newly arrived Rusev could go have a run in AAA, and he'd be a good candidate to be the mega champion, because there's only so many starting slots. So you do need some different venues. You do need some different places for guys to go. There's only so many matches, with the WrestleMania card. It was great, but and WWE maybe gets knocked sometimes for having the pay-per-view events with 6 matches instead of New Japan style or AEW style. But hey, each night went basically 4 hours. That was plenty. Right. And there's plenty of guys who really could have had an opportunity to get on the card that there just wasn't time. I mean, I appreciate what Karrion Kross was saying about only getting to be involved, on a sideline basis in his hometown. And that's what being a good soldier gets you. I get it, but where do you get everybody in? So you do need some additional outlets to get people in and give them a chance to work. So now with NXT, with the main roster, and with AAA, you're expanding your field so you can get more people involved and create more stories. Chase, as a promoter, you got to love the idea of El Grande Americano going to AAA, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it would be interesting to see that reaction from the crowd. Are they gonna absolutely despise him, or are they gonna love
or
him?
Laugh? Yeah. Well, and then somebody else who's going to be great over there, Dirty Dom Mysterio, because man, talk about the switch hitting. He went from being booed and jeered in the stadium real time to, as soon as he did the frog splash on Finn Balor, he became one of the biggest baby faces in WWE instantly. And the reaction that he got, the reaction that he got riding out to the post show, which was in you can actually look at Allegiant Stadium up on Google Maps. There's just a little plaza area outside of the stadium. That's where they had the post show set up. And it runs right to the one street that they closed down. That's the connection between Allegiant Stadium and the Strip. So if you heard the stories about how it was impossible to get out of Allegiant Stadium, and you saw the video of guys running up the down escalator trying to get across to New York so they could get a cab, it does get that packed. But that's where Dom was going to do the post show. And as he was coming through on the golf cart, you heard the fans going, "Yeah, Dom, you deserve it. You deserve it." And it was totally organic, not on camera. Man, the people loved him. It's like they've just been waiting for the chance to cheer him on. So that's a guy who really grabbed a hold of the personality change that he was given and made the most of it, because when he was the face tag partner with his dad, people didn't want to see him because they said, "Well, why this guy can't wrestle? You're forcing him down our throat. We don't want to see him." Now, man, he's on top of the world, and I think the future is going to be great for him because, man, a Mysterio going to AAA with the WWE title. I mean, how huge could that be to have him main event a card in Mexico City?
Yeah.
You know that's coming.
Yeah.
Maybe Dirty Dom against El Hijo del Vikingo. That would be pretty good.
Maybe.
For the Intercontinental Championship?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For the for the IC title, because I was really hoping Vikingo would get into the ring and be able to do something, because something that I've noticed from going to both WWE and AEW shows, they know the wrestlers, who's coming in. Somebody comes in from New Japan, they know who it is. WWE shows, I think they kind of watch the WWE universe, and if it's not somebody from NXT or one of Raw or SmackDown, they really don't have much of an idea who it is. And you're even seeing that to a degree with Penta and Phoenix.
And that's what I was pointing out toward too, was with all the expansion going on now, we'll have the opportunity to look around more and see more of the possibilities of who's coming in from where. And it'll just be a nice mix up compared to how it's been kind of almost like tunnel vision in the past.
Sure.
And I give that credit to Triple H, who's the brain behind the production. He's just got a phenomenal mind toward that, and how they know what things to go talk to and who to bring in and to expand their umbrella. It's just phenomenal.
Yeah, well, and there seems to be lines drawn as they're kind of taking sides. AEW, New Japan, and CMLL, and then WWE with AAA and TNA. And you saw a TNA presence as Randy Orton's surprise opponent was, say his name, he's there, Joe Hendry. And Joe Hendry got a heck of a response too. And you could see how he had those few appearances on WWE TV, and that let everybody know, because they started playing Joe Hendry's song and the fans were with him, even though it didn't end up terribly well for Joe Hendry. Did you guys have a problem with TNA's world champion losing, rather decisively to Randy Orton? Or is it okay because Randy Orton's a legend?
I didn't. Back in my day, we had a term for that. But, when you bring in someone that hasn't been a part of the story as long as your top person has, you kind of look at it and go, well, this is going to go this way maybe. But I like Joe Hendry's response. I like the fact they brought in a fresh face and someone who had accomplished some things and just wasn't someone coming out with nothing. And I thought for a couple of seconds there, he did pretty well for himself. He stood up and withstood the test of time. And that's what I look for in potentials as I start deciding who I'm choosing, who I'm picking to be stars of the future, is how they conduct themselves in their opening matches right on down the line to when they actually become stars. Logan Paul, the same kind of response. I think Logan Paul is going to be a superstar within the next couple of years. He just has to make it up. He's real serious, and I look forward to seeing more match involvements with he and Joe Hendry both. I don't think this is the last time we'll see Joe Hendry.
No, I don't. Chase, I mean, do you see Joe Hendry staying in this kind of tweener role with maybe a new contract with TNA, or do you think the everybody's speculation that the day his contract ends, he's going to the WWE as a full-time WWE star, and then maybe he'll make some appearances in TNA, because they do seem to be putting that bond together pretty tightly.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that we had, or like not we, but like the companies had to establish, like going forward to do these working relationships, is hey, like WWE is the top tier, and there was no arguing with that, right? I mean, it's a $1 billion company, right? I mean,
Right.
So the idea that Joe Hendry would be upset that I mean, TNA, no offense, I watch TNA, I love TNA. No, this is not a knock or a hit at all, but you're talking about a company that's filling 5,000 people in a venue, and they sent their world champion to go be in front of 60 plus thousands people in the biggest wrestling event of the year, to lose to one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. And people are like, is that the right look? Like, are we serious?
Yeah.
It's a great look. It's an absolute great look, because TNA is
The Rock, know your role.
Yeah, exactly. TNA is their, I mean, it's a good product, but I mean, they need all the help they can get with where they're at. And what better way to help people go, hey, let's go watch Joe Hendry on TNA, because he was on WrestleMania. Having him on NXT is one thing. It's a great thing. It's been great for NXT, and it's been great for TNA to commingle the two. This is the completely different monster. There's 60,000 people in that venue, and there's a lot of people that were going to WrestleMania or watching WrestleMania that don't watch NXT. That's just the reality of it.
Sure.
But they stalled Joe Hendry from TNA's world champion, wrestle against Randy Orton. So that's a plus for everybody involved.
Well, and to highlight that, TNA had a show WrestleMania Thursday as well. They did it at the Cox Pavilion. That's the Thomas and Mack Center. It's the arena on UNLV's campus, which, again, in the spirit of Las Vegas, is like a mile and a half maybe from Allegiant Stadium. Everything's close. It's all right there in the center.
Yeah.
They had one of the biggest crowds they've had in years, and incredible ticket prices. I logged on a couple of hours before the TNA event on the Thursday before Mania. The tickets were going to get in the door, just to get into Thomas and Mack Center, which just, about a 15,000 seat arena, 13 to 15,000 seats, depending on how they had it configured. Just to get in the door was $225. It's been a long, long, long time since a TNA or an Impact event commanded $225 a ticket. So the partnership with WWE, with NXT, I think has been hugely successful for TNA. And even if you're going to lose your stars, even if Jordan Grace goes to NXT full time and Joe Hendry goes to WWE, they can come back. And we're seeing it with going the other way with Dango and with All Ego, Ethan Page, coming back in and making appearances in TNA. So I think this has been a tremendously successful partnership for him. And you got to think you're going to see TNA wrestling as part of those big event weeks now. I bet, like we talked about earlier, you'll have a TNA show in the New York area, maybe at the Hammerstein on SummerSlam week, and it'll pack it because the fans now have bought into, hey, we don't know who's going to show up. That door is wide open, and there's WWE stars that are showing up. And if I go, I may see Trick Williams, I may see Carmella, I may see Obafemi, and vice versa. If you go to an NXT card, maybe you see Nick Nemeth, the man formerly known as Dolph Ziggler, making his return to the WWE universe. So
Yeah.
all those potentials are open. And, like you were saying earlier, Sonny, it's part of that bigger universe that they're building with Triple H and Shawn Michaels, knitting together all these stories and having to be cohesive. And that's really probably the biggest thing that jumps out the last couple of years of Mania, is that every match actually had some reason behind it. There was something to it,
Right.
including, which this amazed me that this is true, but I've heard it from multiple places, so I know it is. Jade Cargill against Naomi, the first non-title implication women's match in Mania history. And you see another potential just megastar in Jade Cargill, because Allegiant Stadium was solidly behind Jade Cargill, and you got to think she's going to be a contender for a championship real soon. But we're seeing the women's wrestling elevated to the point that it doesn't have to be a title implication match. They can have a Mania match, and Naomi's done a great job of being a factor after leaving and spending time in TNA. And I mean, Chase, that's been part of an evolution that we've seen in wrestling, I think, over the last 20 years, is that the women's card is now at a level where their matches can be equal to the men's matches.
Yeah, I mean, you look at some of the earlier 2000s with the women there that were doing the work. Gail Kim coming into WWE right around the time that they were giving Trish and Lita opportunities. Gail Kim has obviously done a whole bunch of stuff for women's wrestling. Obviously, Lita and Trish, and how it's transitioned so much that I'm almost positive they're doing Evolution 2 this year, aren't they?
Yeah, they've said it's coming.
Yeah. So, I mean, women's wrestling, women's sports, it's come a long way in the past 20 years, 25 years. And it's been interesting to see.
And Sonny, what was your take? As I know you mentioned that women's match, the first match, which definitely is one of the best women's matches in WWE history. Rhea Ripley, Bianca Belair, and Io Sky. A great match because of the work that went into the match and the story that was built around it. So that's great to see, because you had that three-way match and then the three-way match at the end, which, while it didn't have a title implication, had tremendous story behind it with Roman, Seth, and CM Punk. So you had a couple of three-way matches that carried a lot of story going in, which is a huge part of being successful, because it's great to have the work, but you need to care about what's going on in the ring too. And I think both of those matches did a great job of doing that.
I do too. I think even in the story, the bloodline that is still a little bit there and a little bit present, you're still getting a real decent story from that. And that's what I heard somebody say, well, on the previous podcast, maybe about a year ago, even, that, well, I'm tired of that story. Well, the story is what brings the fullness of the event.
Sure.
In my day, we called it a rival between two people. Two people would go out there, Ric Flair, Ricky Steamboat, Randy Savage, and they'd go out at tooth and nail, and we'd see that type of story. Now you bring in extra TV time, and you're able to expand that and say, well, this is Dominic Mysterio's on-screen girlfriend, Liv Morgan, for example, and this is what all we're going to do in this particular story. The story is just as important as the in-ring action nowadays in wrestling, because that keeps the viewer tuned in to see what's going to happen next. And the writers are so good at what they do, in my professional opinion, unbiased opinion,
Mm-hmm.
that it's an even blend between story and athleticism and realism in the ring, because you get to know the characters more. Um, like you were saying with Dominic Mysterio, when he was with his dad, the fans felt like he was being shoved down their throats as a good guy, but they don't want
Yeah.
to have something shoved down their throats. That's been some of the responses to John Cena at this point. But
Mm-hmm.
they like to see it played out and see how things are going to develop. The women have really come a long way in the absence of my girl Charlotte Flair, and stepped up immensely. I think women's wrestling improved around the time China stepped up and came on the scene and started wrestling some of the men wrestlers, and she was a front runner in her day of
Yeah.
we're here to be taken seriously. Now Morgan, one of the best wrestlers I've ever seen, ever. She can do it all. I mean, she can make you love her or hate her, and I'm looking forward to seeing more women involvement as time goes on. They've been there a long time, and it's their day. I knew a wrestler in South Carolina named Susan Tex Green, and she would tell you real quick women were so mistreated in days of old for wanting to get in the ring and wrestle, and weren't paid their due against the men forever. And now they are. So
Yeah.
I'm excited to see the merger come forward in this thing, and how many women are going to cross over from the different alliances to make it even better. Charlotte Flair has a work really cut out if she wants to get her title back at this point in time.
Well, she'll get one. She'll get one more. That was a hard
She
hitting
will.
match too. Her against Tiffany
I
Stratton.
enjoyed it very much. I was real
Dennis.
pleased that her knee didn't seem to hinder her that bad during the matchup at all. So
No, they were going at
it was
it. A
one of
very
those
physical
things.
match, and Tiffany Stratton ended up seeing the on-call dentist at Allegiant Stadium and had some dental work done and had multiple bruises. So it was definitely a hard-hitting match. Well, hey, I wanted to talk about alliances, and just as we're winding down here, the story, like you said, Chase, that came out of Mania, it wasn't just John Cena. It was the Dangerous Alliance of the wise man, Paul Heyman, formerly known as Paulie Dangerously, turning on both CM Punk and Roman Reigns and teaming up with the visionary, the revolutionary Seth freaking Rollins, and a story that we talked about a couple months ago, that Paul Heyman had been helping Braun Breaker in doing promos, and Paul Heyman talked about helping him. Braun Breaker, now not the Intercontinental Championship, lost it without being pinned. He's partnered up with Seth and Paul Heyman. Chase, are you excited to see the new Dangerous Alliance and how that obviously sets up a partnership with CM Punk and Roman Reigns in the spirit of the enemy of my enemy is my friend?
Yeah, I mean, that was what I immediately thought of was, is this going to change the dynamic between CM Punk and Roman Reigns? I'm interested to see where it all goes. Very interested. Watching this come together organically. I don't want to jinx it, but I'm a little bit hesitant, because we've seen Paul kind of veer off and do different people than he usually does. Curtis Axel, Cesaro. I don't know if you guys remember how that went. Those were very short-lived. I hope this isn't one of those things. I hope this works out. But I'm very interested to see where it goes.
Well, and could it just be, Sonny, could it just be that Paul Heyman is looking selfishly at this and saying, Okay, well, Roman said he's retiring at the end of this contract. CM Punk is, I mean, honestly, month to month. Seth Rollins, he's in the prime of his career, and Braun Breaker is the star of the future. I'm going to do what all sorts of professional sports teams do. I'm going younger. Do you think Paul's just looking at it selfishly, saying these are the guys that are going to carry me for the next 10 years, so I'm going with them?
I think it's a possibility at this point. He has continued to give allegiance to Roman Reigns, though, even in his interviews, away from the initial feud between he and Roman at WrestleMania. And but what Paul Heyman is real quick to point out is it's business, and everyone is always in the market to reposition themselves and to have their own longevity continue. And I think that may be what he's doing here, but I don't think he's going to completely let go of Roman Reigns. And Roman originally retired, I think, around 2008. So he's talked about retirement before and has always found his way back. So Paul could be buying some time, trying some new things out.
Yeah, well, plenty to unfold here as we approach Backlash coming up on May 10th. It's coming up around the corner. It's going to be quick. So they're going to build up to Backlash here pretty quickly. And then we'll get back on the road to All In for AEW. So your next huge event going to be All In coming up on July 12th. Of course, they have Double or Nothing coming up May 27th. Before that, the finals of the Owen Hart Cup will take place there. We're going to see a championship match that they laid out with Samoa Joe, former AEW champion, trying to end once and for all, hopefully, the Death Rider story. But I don't think Samoa Joe's ending. I think we're still building towards whose house, Swerve's house. But we'll get back to talking about AEW. We also have a Fountain City Pro show coming up. And Chase, I know you're starting to build up to that. That's coming up on I believe it's May 22nd?
23rd.
23rd, okay. Can you tell us a little bit about the Fountain City show coming up? What are some of the matches to take a look at just here as we approach it? Obviously, we'll build up to it more and kind of go over the whole card as we get closer.
Yeah. We're recording this. By the time this comes out, we may have a few match announcements. I haven't announced any just yet. First off, actually, you know what? I'll do this instead. Instead of announcing some of those matches, I will announce something that has not been announced and won't be announced for at least a week, but I will do it here. So if you watch the Wrestling Spotlight, you'll get it before Fountain City Pro announces it. We are going to announce the Fountain City Reserve. It will be our version of the Money in the Bank. And that will be one of our bouts at our May show, which is a play off of the old Newfound Glory. A big music fan. I like all types of music. But My Friends Over You. This show is going to be called Fountain City Over You. May 23rd. Super excited.
And imagine we'll see the Grand Regent, Camaro Jackson, your Fountain City Pro champion, will have some impact in it. And maybe Jake Parnell may be involved. So great local, independent, but high-level independent pro wrestling taking place here in Kansas City, coming up May 23rd at the Ball Event Center in Olathe, Kansas. Well, one more story as we're wrapping it up. The WWE did have their Hall of Fame induction ceremony. And Sonny, I know the Legends induction included the Russian Bear, Ivan Koloff. I know that was something that was very close to you as a trainee of the Russian Bear himself. Long-deserved recognition into the Hall of Fame. What did you think of that? Getting a little recognition for the Russian Bear.
I thought it was overdue. He went to the Hall of Fame, as I said on the previous show, in 2016, and took Jimmy Valiant. And Jimmy Valiant took his wife Angel with him, and he took his coat off, and they sat at the table during the entire time. And the only thing he got that night was a conversation that involved me with Vince McMahon and himself about being inducted into the Hall someday at some point. And he went home empty-handed. And it meant the world to him to be accepted in the world of pro wrestling. Ivan was a man's man, and if you didn't give him straight answers, he'd just up and leave. And that's what he did when he won the WWF World Heavyweight title. Vince went to him and said, do you mind staying a little longer? And that was all he said. And he didn't tell him anything. So he ended up dropping the title. And after a 3-week stay with it and going on to another place to wrestle to continue to make his income. And that one move, from what Ivan told me personally, he felt that one move is why they delayed his involvement. Plus, he had another situation years later where people had suffered concussions in the WWE, and there was a lawsuit going on at that time about the medical expenses of being checked out, so on and so forth, about their well-being. And he was Adam was named on that lawsuit. So a couple of things probably delayed it. But Ivan wanted it so bad that a fan made him a Hall of Fame ring. And I have a picture of that of him wearing that ring with Nikita and I on my Facebook page. And he just wanted it so bad he could taste it. And I think it was high time they gave it to him. I hope the Hall does better at recognizing deserving people as time goes on, even though they do a pretty good job now. Occasionally, that some legends and so forth seem to get held back, I guess, until the right time. And anyway, I'm very honored to have been trained by a legend, and I was given a tryout by WWE Hall of Famer Bobby Fulton, one half of the Fantastics, too. And they handled me during my stay there until Bobby left. And Ivan took completely over my training. And it was an honor to know Ivan. I miss him every day.
Well, well-deserved, and I think it tells a good story, too, about kind of the changing mood that we're in a new era. So, yeah, absolutely. Very well-deserved recognition. And before we go to Weekly Champions, I do want to recognize one other legend and a champion in multiple sports. After a long battle with Alzheimer's, former Chicago Bear and WCW champion Steve Mongo McMichael passed away just about a day ago as we're filming here. So rest in peace, Mongo. True champion both in the NFL and WCW as a member of the Four Horsemen. Ric Flair, if you follow Ric Flair, he's been providing lots of information on the battle that Mongo McMichael's had with Alzheimer's. Just a terrible, terrible disease, and a guy who truly deserves that recognition as a champion. So by all means, rest in peace, Mongo. Let's go ahead to our champion of the week on this WrestleMania week.
Hey guys, it's your girl Ash by Elegance, and you're watching me on Wrestling Spotlight.
Okay, got our championship belt, the Wrestling Spotlight Television Championship. Chase, who's your champion of the week here on WrestleMania week?
It's got to be John Cena, right? I mean, 17 times. I highly doubt that the NWA is going to recognize those other 5 world title wins by Ric Flair, especially if they did do it now. It would kind of look like it would kind of be a bad look, especially with them trying to have a positive relationship with WWE. So probably not going to happen. And that's okay. That means that John Cena holds the record at 17 world championships. And on top of the world, been on top of the world since his first title win in 2005. And little known fact, I share a birthday with John Cena. So.
Oh, really? Wow.
Oh,
there we go. A belated happy birthday to you.
I appreciate that.
Happy birthday.
And Sonny, who's your champion of the week?
My champion of the week this week is a Mexican wrestler who's very athletic, can walk the top rope of the ring, can do a 619 on anybody. Ray Phoenix. Saw him on SmackDown and have seen him twice now, and he has impressed me both times. He's going to be a big star. I got a good response on X when I tweeted that out after seeing him, and I just think he's very deserving of being where he's at now in WWE.
Yeah, the Lucha Bros. Guy's been a champion pretty much everywhere in AAA and Lucha Underground and TNA and AEW. Yeah, no, good one. And he had a hard-fought match against the legendary luchador El Grande Americano. Well, I'm going to go with another legend of wrestling, somebody I got to see in the ring at Bloodsport, the self-proclaimed low-key legend, Natalia Neidhart, Natty Neidhart, as she's going by. She was the star of GCW Bloodsport, and she is crossing territories again as the WWE legend, one of the last active members of the Hart Foundation, her and Davey Boy Smith Jr. She's going to be part of the Crockett Cup coming up May 17th at the 2300 Arena in Philadelphia. Going to be venturing into the NWA rings and probably going up against Kenzie, the NWA Women's Champion, maybe battling for the Burke. So Natty Neidhart, our champion of the week here for Wrestling Spotlight. But I do like John Cena too. That's a good one as well. And we'll leave with the entrance from John Cena at Mania, because I think it really does kind of sum up the week. We'll let the fans' rendition of John Cena's song take us out here on Wrestling Spotlight on Wrestling Spotlight TV. Chase from Fountain City Pro, thanks for joining us. Fountain City getting back at it May 23rd at the Ball Event Center. And Sonny, the Man Eagle Cain, joining us. Sonny, as we find it down with, just got up with you on Hollywood throughout the week.
They want to follow me. They can reach me at Sonny Cain, at Real Sonny Cain on X. They can reach me at Sonny Cain, Man Eagle on Facebook.
Awesome. Chase, I know they can catch you on Fountain City Pro. We'll get back to more on that Fountain City card as it comes up. Got a lot of the things black and white WrestleMania is over, so that just begins the regular year of pro wrestling. So we sit right here at the Wrestling Spotlight TV for sports and entertainment. We'll see you. Have a great week.